Birthdays used to be my favorite day of the year. Not because of the gifts or the cake, but because it was the one day I felt seen. For 20 years, my husband Mark made sure of that. Breakfast in bed, flowers, a dinner reservation somewhere expensive. Even when we were broke, he'd make me feel special. Until the year he didn't. That morning, I woke to silence. No coffee smell, no whispered happy birthday. Just the sound of his phone buzzing beside him. He didn't move, just turned it over, smiled faintly, and tucked it under his pillow. It wasn't the first time he had done that, but it was the first time I noticed how careful he was. I made breakfast for us both. He didn't even glance up. "Oh, you're cooking early," he said, distracted, scrolling through something on his laptop. I waited all day. No card, no call, no mention. At dinner, I said softly, "You know what day it is?" He frowned. "Tuesday?" I smiled. "Yeah, Tuesday." He nodded and went back to his emails. That night, when he fell asleep, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, trying to convince myself it didn't matter. But that's the thing about small heartbreaks. They don't stay small. They pile up, layer after layer, until one day, you're buried alive under the weight of being forgotten. And I had been forgotten for years. The next morning, I found his phone buzzing again. The name on the screen made my stomach drop. Lily. I didn't mean to open it, I just couldn't not. The messages weren't explicit. They were worse, emotional, intimate, the kind of small inside jokes and late-night confessions that used to belong to us. She was a coworker, younger, married, apparently. And from the messages, their friendship had been going on for over a year. My first instinct was to confront him. My second was to breathe. And my third, to plan. Because after 2 decades of giving everything, my time, my patience, my forgiveness, I realized I didn't want to fight. I wanted closure. So I waited. 3 weeks later was his birthday, and I had the perfect gift. The night before, I told him I was planning something special. "Don't make any plans," I said, smiling. He looked suspicious but pleased. Ego makes people predictable. That morning, I woke early and prepared breakfast, just like he used to for me. Pancakes, coffee, his favorite jam. I even lit a candle. When he came downstairs, he grinned. "Wow, look at this. You didn't have to." "Oh, I wanted to," I said sweetly. "And there's something waiting for you at the table." He sat down, eyes sparkling. On his plate was a small, neatly wrapped box. Inside was a single USB drive and a card that read, "Play me." He looked at me, puzzled. "What's this?" "Your birthday surprise," I said softly. He plugged it into his laptop. The screen lit up. It was a slideshow, photos of us over 20 years, our wedding day, the house we built, vacations, holidays, birthdays, all set to our favorite song. He smiled, touched. "This is really..." Then the photos changed. Screenshots, text messages. Lily, her words, his replies. The color drained from his face. He looked up. "Sara, it's not..." I held up a hand. "Keep watching." The next slide showed screenshots of bank transfers, secret dinners, hotel reservations. Then, at the end, a message from her, dated 3 days ago. "Can't wait to spend your birthday together tomorrow. Hope she doesn't suspect anything." The silence that followed was so heavy it felt like gravity itself shifted. He tried to speak, but I wasn't interested in hearing another lie. I stood, slid an envelope across the table, and said quietly, "Happy birthday, Mark." Inside were divorce papers, signed, dated, ready. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. "You can't be serious." I looked at him, the man who once promised forever, now a stranger sitting in the ruins of his own deceit. And I said the calmest words I'd ever spoken. "I spent years forgiving your absence, but today I'm celebrating mine." Then I walked out. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even look back. My car was already packed. My bags already in the trunk. While he was busy planning his secret getaway, I'd been planning my escape. I drove straight to the coast, checked into a small inn, and sat by the window watching the ocean crash against the rocks. For the first time in years, I felt something strange. Peace. Because revenge isn't always about destruction. Sometimes it's about reclamation. He spent his birthday alone. His Lily never showed. I made sure of that. I'd sent her a message that morning from his phone. Just one line. My wife found out. She knows everything. By noon, she'd blocked him on everything. By evening, he'd called me 12 times. I didn't answer a single one. A week later, his sister called to tell me he was a wreck. He says he can't believe you just walk away like that. I laughed softly. Tell him I learned it from him. It's been 2 years since then. I own my own little bakery now by the sea. I wake up to the sound of gulls, not lies. I still don't like birthdays much, but I light a candle every year anyway. Not for him, for me. Because that was the day I was reborn. And sometimes the best revenge isn't about making them pay. It's about finally choosing yourself, after years of being the one forgotten. We spend years thinking love means endurance. But love without respect is just survival. And survival isn't living. The sweetest revenge isn't pain. It's peace. If this story hit home, make sure you like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Tell me in the comments, would you have walked away quietly or let him find out the hard way? Because sometimes silence is the loudest goodbye.